connecting people, building communities, helping clients to build multi-generational wealth through real estate.
Today, we have the privilege of having Danielle Unsworth with us. She's been a source of inspiration for myself personally, watching her at her 40s, she turned 40 this year, and how amazing she has been doing, not only being a great inspiring woman, a great mom, but also a great real estate investor. Welcome, Danielle. Well said, Danielle. And that's applicable everywhere in life.
That's right. That's right.
Through partnership, through any relationship, you can really see each side of you under the challenges and then how you would react to it.
And the third challenge, I would say, is people that are not supportive of your goals, your, journey, your business, entrepreneurship, because they are not investors themselves. So a lot of times it's unfortunate, but it's usually people that are closest to us, like in our small circle, and navigating that can be difficult. Sometimes you hear a lot of negative things. And so one way to overcome that is actually to accept that, they are not investors. And so their advice comes from a different place, and they're doing it because they are close to you and they don't want you to suffer or fail. So once you accept that, and then you find another circle that do want to support you and that are full of people that are like you, then you can share your goals and you won't have to deal with that negativity, because you'll have that circle that's going to encourage you and support you and kind of help you along the way. So that's definitely another challenge that I've seen, is like having to deal with negativity. And then overcoming that is finding circles where people are doing what you're doing, and then you won't feel like you're doing something that's so, crazy or out of the norm, because they're all doing it with you.
Yeah, surrounding ourselves with like-minded people.
Exactly. And sometimes it's hard to start that journey, but if you truly want something, you're going to go look for those people, or
True.
They'll show up when you're ready, right?
True. And with recent market activity, I'm sure that you have been impacted like many others.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your response to that? Interest rates gone up, and is that a challenge for you? Consider the challenge, and how you do how do you deal with it?
Yes, definitely. We've all been impacted because, like, for example, some of the properties that we have refinanced, and the plan was that it was now going to cash flow. It's no longer cash flowing because of the interest rates, right? So we are able to kind of wait it out, because the numbers that we used to calculate were very conservative. So instead of having, let's say, $800 cash flow a month for one property, we're left with maybe like $50 instead. But at least we're able to hold on to the property, and now we're looking at the bigger picture. So the goal right now is to pretty much, navigate the negative cash flow by either creating active income or either figuring out if that property is worth holding on to for the long term. So some of the properties we've had to let go because it didn't make sense to hold on to it anymore. For example, there was a property that we bought, and the plan for it was to Airbnb it, short-term rental, but it didn't work out with the regulations, and it wasn't profitable as a long-term rental. So we were able to sell it. So it's really looking at your portfolio as a whole and then seeing, okay, does it make sense to keep this property? Because once interest rates go back down, we're going to cash flow a lot. So we'll keep this one.
Yeah.
This one doesn't really make any sense right now. Let's liquidate it and then use that money for something else. So it's all about looking at your strategies and then making sure that they make sense right now, but also being aware that this is not forever, right? So if everybody starts selling everything now, you're not going to have anything in 5 years to build your wealth, right? This is not the time to like liquidate everything. This is a time to reassess and sort of analyze which properties are the ones worth holding on to and then which ones don't make sense anymore.
Yeah, well said. So in reality, constant analysis and reflection on the real estate portfolio we have and decide whether it's something that we want to hold on to long term, not only looking at the short term ups and down, but looking at long term. If it serves us, we keep. If not, then we bring it to the market and we replace it with another investment property. Am I correct?
Exactly, because you don't necessarily have to sell a property to buy another property, but you could still use that money to invest in something else, right? There's different strategies that you can use. It doesn't necessarily mean it's buy and sell, you know? So you could do private lending with that money to increase your cash flow until interest rates come down. So that's one option. So there are many options, but yes, you definitely have to look at what you have right now and then see, especially if you have more than like a few properties, doesn't mean that they're all going to be worth holding on to, right? Or sometimes you have to change the strategy. Let's say you had a single family home and it doesn't make sense anymore. So then maybe now if your tenant is going to leave, now you turn it into like a student rental instead. So it's the same property, but different way to use that property to increase your cash flow.
So I wanted to ask you about a story among the challenges you had that it didn't work as planned. So I heard what you said about the Airbnb property you bought as an Airbnb and didn't work out the way you wanted. So you sold it, which is great, knowing that we don't need to be attached to our real estate investment. We have to just really look at it very logically and see whether what the decision we made is still supporting our goal or not. So thank you for that, Danielle. There are definitely great challenges that we have all faced, and then definitely looking at the big picture is always important, not to lose sight of what we want at the end. Now, let's look at the financials. Let's say you refer to your aim is always to buy, hold, refinance, rent, repeat. So what are your financial strategies that you use, generally speaking, for any real estate investment you make?
So I would recommend to people, if you have the ability to finance your own properties, do that first, because then you get full control of the property without having to, go through different partners to get to the decision-making process, right? So for me, number one is if you have the capital to do it on your own, do that first so that you can go through the whole process and you have full control over the property. But the next step is, let's say you do run out of capital, you like for your finances. Now is the time to either partner with someone. So you partner, maybe you put in a small portion of the capital and you pool it with somebody else, or you could not put any money in the deal, but you're going to do all the work. So the other person will come in as the capital investor, and then you put in your energy, your time, your effort, etc. So that's one way to finance a deal as well, because it's technically not your money, but it's your time and knowledge and expert. And then the third way you could finance a deal is actually to raise money for it, right? So you can talk to your friends, your family, and then see if you can all pool your resources together to buy a property, maybe a larger property, because you have more resources now that they're pooled. So for me, personally, I've done all of these strategies. So I've bought properties just me and my husband. I've pooled resources with family and friends. I've also been the active partner where I'm not putting any money in. My other capital investors are putting the money in, but I'm going to be doing all the work. So I'm able to finance deals using all these different financing methods. There's a lot of other options too. There's also like, private lenders, for example, and there's B mortgages and things like that. So there's a lot of different options versus just going to the bank and getting that conventional mortgage.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, what I heard before, you were actually referring to how important it is that we know who we are going to be partnering up with.
Mhm.
And that's very important. But, if you want to really, you have capital and you can invest on your own for the initial down payment, then that's the method would be ideal. If not, if you want to partner up with someone, then you really need to know, even if you don't put money, even
Mhm.
if, let's say, you are going to be taking care of everything, you are going to put the time, you're going to put the energy, and somebody else is going to put the money, you still are partners, and you want to make sure that the partnership is solid and
That's
works beautifully. Or just simply raising funds within the family or circle of friends that you know best, and then you become partners. And raising is another kind of partnership,
mhm.
raising funds, grouping people to just do something, a joint venture together.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
brilliant ideas. So, Daniel, based on all we discussed, we are now following a market trend.
Mhm.
In this current market, where do we see we are going, and what are some emerging trends actually you're observing in real estate market that can benefit you or could be a warning sign for you?
Great question. And I wish I knew the answer because then, I would be able to help a lot of people. But for me personally, I'm no longer buying single family homes because to me it's it's too volatile for myself as an investor. So I'm either going to stick with multifamily or, like we mentioned earlier, is to invest overseas with different partners because they have different markets, right? Not all markets in the world are going through what we're going through. For example, the Turks and Caicos market that we're investing in does not have the same conditions as we do here. So it's very, very different. And so for me, I also am starting to learn more about the industrial real estate market as well, a little bit more about land development. So trying to go and learn about like a different side of real estate because not everything is single family home and multifamily properties. There's so many more um, facets of real estate, right? So the industrial real estate is really exciting to me because of all of the supply chain and all of the um, factors that are happening right now, like at the global scale. So I feel like that would be a really interesting uh, area to start looking into. So for me, I think that is going to start to grow a little bit more as people shift from investing in single family homes and residential properties.
I'm actually intrigued with your interest on land development and industrial buildings. Can you tell
Mhm.
us more about that? And when you talk about land developments, are you talking about farmlands? Are you talking about land developments to build high rises? How do you see that?
Yes, so it can be anything really. So depending on the zone. So with land development is there's also different ways to implement that strategy. You could buy a lot that has an old house, for example, and you can rent that old house if it's still, in good condition while you go through the building permit process to build, let's say, 20 unit or story, etc. So what you're doing is you buy the land, you rent out the current property, and then you go through the building permits. So a lot of people also call this like land banking because you're buying the land and you're actually using it for a different purpose later. And then you can sell that process, like the permits, or you can continue and then contact builders and then take the project to like the end. And then in terms of industrial real estate, so these are like warehouses, storage facilities, etc. Because I feel like there's going to be more businesses coming to Canada, especially Canada and US, and all of these companies are going to need that real estate to, either store their products or they need it to work in, like whether it's like steel manufacturing, things like that. So it's a totally different world, but I feel like there may be a lot more interest going that route in the future.
Yeah, definitely great thinking and great areas to focus on, either warehouses or land development, land banking.
Connecting people, building communities, helping clients to build multi-generational wealth through real estate.